A moment I could never have predicted. How could I possibly have known that what happened in that one brief moment would completely redirect the course of my life? It started like the most ordinary day imaginable. Sunlight slipping through the curtains, the quiet hum of the house, nothing unusual at all. And yet, a single detail, a door left slightly ajar, shifted something inside me so suddenly and sharply that I still feel it when I think back to it. I could have turned around. I could have walked back downstairs, ignored the faint sounds, pretended I hadn't heard or seen anything. But I didn't. Something, instinct, curiosity, fate, pushed me forward. And when I stepped into that moment, I realized instantly that nothing in my life would return to the way it had been before. And the truth? I was partly to blame. I walked toward it. I didn't stop it. I didn't step away when I should have. George was at work. The entire house felt still, almost hollow. But upstairs I heard faint noises, barely noticeable at first, like someone shifting or tapping. I assumed Elliot was in his room, wrapped up in whatever he usually did. He was 23 after all, old enough to have his own world and habits. I didn't think anything of it. But something made me pause. Maybe he'd like a coffee, I thought. A small chat, a break in the monotony. Nothing unusual. As I climbed the stairs, each step felt strangely deliberate, as if I were rising towards something I didn't yet understand. The sounds grew clearer, not loud, not alarming, just enough to make me tilt my head. His door wasn't closed all the way. That, more than anything, made me hesitate. I drew in a slow breath, preparing to call his name, just a friendly, harmless gesture. But before the words left my lips, my eyes landed on him. Elliot sat on the edge of his bed, his laptop balanced across his legs. The glow from the screen lit up his face, outlining his expression in stark contrast. His shoulders tensed, his hands moved quickly across the keyboard. First, I assumed he was watching something, maybe a fast-paced video, maybe chatting with someone. But when I shifted my angle just slightly, everything inside me stilled. In the reflection of his screen, I understood exactly what I had walked in on. Cold rush swept through me, the kind that makes your body both freeze and burn at the same time. This wasn't something I had expected. And certainly not something I had meant to witness. Elliot reacted instantly, scrambling, fumbling, rushing to minimize the window. His face flushed a shade of red I'd never seen on him. His breathing quickened, panic filled his eyes. I'm sorry, he managed. He couldn't even look at me. I tried to speak. The door, I muttered uselessly, though I wasn't even sure what excuse I was trying to make for myself. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it in my ears. Embarrassment flooded me, but there was also something else, something confusing and unnameable. I stepped away from the doorway, my movements stiff, mechanical. My hands pressed to my cheeks as if that could calm the storm rising inside me. What on earth was that? I whispered. How did I let this happen? But something deep within me, something I didn't want to face, stirred anyway. The apology neither of us expected. Elliot was 23 now, not a child, certainly not inexperienced. But I was 47 with my own history, my own mistakes, and enough past embarrassment to fill several lifetimes. Seeing him like that didn't simply trigger shock. It awakened memories of my own missteps, my own human vulnerabilities. I stood frozen in the hallway until Elliot appeared in the doorway. He didn't meet my eyes at first. He adjusted his shirt, cleared his throat as though trying to compose himself. "Darlene, I'm really sorry," he murmured. I thought the door was closed. I didn't mean. No, I cut in quickly, avoiding his gaze. I should have knocked. I'm the one who. I shouldn't have just walked in. What followed was not just silence, it was a heavy, almost tangible quietness. We lived in the same house for years, but never had we stood face to face with this kind of tension between us. I should go start on dinner, I said, my voice trembling despite my effort to sound normal. He didn't stop me. He didn't say another word. But I felt his gaze linger as I walked away, as though he was trying to decipher what exactly had just shifted between us. The days after, calm on the surface, turmoil underneath. We didn't talk for the rest of that day. Not at dinner. Not even in passing. The table, we sat opposite each other, silent, stiff, pretending everything was fine. But the silence said the opposite. Nothing was fine. Everything had changed. The next day came and went. So did the one after. Routine seemed to return, but underneath it all was a current neither of us could ignore. And then, a few afternoons later, Elliot finally broke the silence. He sat next to me cautiously, as though approaching something delicate. "Darlene, about the other day." His voice wavered slightly. "I'm embarrassed. Really embarrassed. I never wanted things to feel awkward between us. Please don't let it ruin everything." I drew a breath, slow, steady, necessary. "Oh, Elliot," I chuckled lightly, trying to ease his worry. "You'd be surprised how many embarrassing moments I've had in my life." I shared some harmless, silly stories, moments from my younger years. He laughed, the stiffness in his shoulders loosening a bit. For a moment, the tension seemed to dissolve. But I knew, deep down, that it hadn't actually gone anywhere. It had only settled beneath the surface, waiting. Confession that shifted everything. Then Elliot said something that made my heart stop. "I guess we're even now," he mumbled. I turned to him. "What do you mean?" His expression flickered, hesitation, regret, uncertainty. He rubbed the back of his neck. "I've seen you. Before." His voice dropped. "You just never knew." A jolt shot through me, not fear, not exactly, but something sharp and startling. "What?" I whispered. He swallowed. "It was a long time ago. I didn't say anything because I was embarrassed. But I never forgot. It was something I kept to myself." The air thickened instantly. This was no longer a simple conversation. This was a line crossing. A revelation that dissolved every boundary we had maintained for years. From that day forward, everything shifted. Elliot and I began spending more time together, at first without realizing it. Small habits changed. Little interactions became longer, deeper, more charged. We watched movies together, talked more, laughed more. And every time our hands accidentally brushed, every time our eyes met a little longer than before, something inside me stirred. I tried not to acknowledge it, but ignoring it became harder and harder. Restlessness in the night. One night, sleep refused to come. I tossed and turned, unable to quiet the restlessness inside me. Elliot's confession echoed in my mind. His gaze, his hesitations, his embarrassment, his curiosity. It was all too much. I told myself I needed to set boundaries, clear, unbreakable ones. If he had feelings, I needed to stop them. If I had feelings, I needed to bury them. With that determination, I rose from my bed and found myself walking toward his room. His door was slightly open again. The dim light spilled across the floor. When I stepped inside, he was asleep. A wave of emotion washed over me, complicated, inexplicable. I stood there only a moment before pulling myself away, breath unsteady. I shouldn't have been there at all. The night everything went too far. Later, much later, things escalated again. Elliot came home drunk. Very drunk. He knocked things over on his way in, loud enough that I feared George might wake. I hurried to him, not even having time to fix the strap of my shirt before reaching him. His eyes were unfocused, but when he saw me, he smiled softly. "Darlene, are you real?" He slurred. "Sure, keep your voice down," I whispered. "You'll wake George." But Elliot wasn't listening. He was staring at me in a way he never had before. "You're beautiful," he murmured. "Did I never notice? Or have you always been like this?" My breath caught. This was crossing into dangerous territory. "Elliot, enough. Come to the kitchen. You need coffee." I guided him there gently, trying to keep things under control. But the more he spoke, the more the atmosphere shifted, heavy, charged, confusing. He spilled his coffee. He smiled softly at nothing. He kept saying strange, tender things that made my heart twist. When I finally led him back upstairs, he could barely steady himself. He tried to change but struggled with his buttons, and without thinking, I helped him. The moment my fingers touched the fabric, the air changed again. He stopped moving. I stopped breathing. This was the point where everything should have ended, where I should have stepped back. But neither of us moved. The silence felt alive between us. "Darlene," he murmured, steadier now than before. "I'm not pretending anymore. And neither are you." I don't know what you mean," I whispered. "Yes, you do." He stepped closer. And closer. His hand brushed my cheek. And time seemed to collapse inward. A line crossed. What happened next wasn't planned. It wasn't wise. It wasn't something either of us could ever undo. It wasn't explicit. But it was intimate. Deeply, dangerously intimate. A moment of weakness. A moment of confusion. A moment driven by months, maybe years, of unspoken tension. Afterward, I helped him lie down, covered him with a blanket, and locked the door behind me so George wouldn't accidentally stumble into anything confusing. In the bathroom, the water washed over me, but my mind was a storm. Fear, relief, guilt, calmness, all tangled together. By the time I lay down in my bed again, I felt strangely quiet, as if the chaos inside me had settled into something still and unreadable. But I knew one thing. This wasn't the end. Something had begun, and it wouldn't stay simple. More was coming. Much more. And eventually, George would find out everything.